This episode is brought to you by Tina's Vodka.
I'm Gianna Hearn, and I'm a basketball sideline reporter, and this is Her Table.
Now you see her.
You are magnificent!
Welcome to Her Table, the podcast that shines a spotlight on the badass women who are redefining the game. Join hosts Kate Foley and Megan Martinez as they unlock the secrets of success from the brightest female pioneers in the industry.
Welcome back to Her Table. We are so excited to be back in studio and welcome in Gianna Hearn to the show. Gianna has worked for the NBA G League in a number of different roles, including the live game producer and team reporter for the Ignite.
Gianna graduated from the University of Nevada in Reno and worked for the Sacramento Kings blog while she was in college. She has worked in almost every position in the industry, from audio operator to camera to talent. But right now, currently, Gianna is holding the most important title in her career yet, mom.
I can't wait to learn more about Gianna's journey, so let's get to it. Gianna, welcome to Her Table.
All right, pretty lady, I'm so excited that we get to have you here today. Welcome to our beautiful studio in California. Made the trip, brought little mama with you too.
I was shook when I came in. I said, this is a real deal. This is so pretty. And I figured you guys had to have designed it because it has that kind of touch on it.
Yeah,
It does.
we needed to have that like comfortable setting is what we've been saying. You know,
some color.
Yeah, although some days we do come in here in sweatpants and we feel significantly underdressed for where we're at, but I'm like, it's fine.
I thought about it. I was like, let me up it up a little bit since I'm coming here.
And we love the look. We were talking about this before, but the monochrome,
the mono,
we love it.
I love it. Yeah,
We were also talking about dressing postpartum, having a baby. You figure it out. I feel good today.
It's just like a process. I feel like it's, and there's no like one right way or wrong way. I think guys don't understand one day is good, the next day is not. They're like, wait, you were good yesterday. Why are you like a nightmare today? I was like, I'm just not feeling it today. Just got nothing for you. Like, I can't feel it. Okay, so you brought your little girl in.
I did.
So
a year and a
exciting.
half years old. We made it. And she's just a blessing. We went to Oceanside for the last couple of days with my sister and then my little girl. And we just loved it. She's a joy. We travel so much for work, my husband and I. And she comes everywhere. We never leave her behind, and it's been hard, but it's been super fun.
How do you manage that?
Jesus and a lot of prayer and just taking it one day at a time. Luckily, you know, I have a really great marriage with my husband, so we're each other's biggest supporters. And so when I'm working, he's watching her, and vice versa.
I love that. Do you ever feel early in my career I would never take my kids anywhere? Because I was so intimidated by like, oh, the girl's taking her kids and can she do her job? How do you, or have you ever felt like that? Because now I'm trying to be better. Now I'm like, no, they're coming. If any dude can bring his girl, you know, his little girl, his little boy, mine are coming along. How does that make you feel that you get to bring her and she gets to see you do what you love?
I have a very supportive work family. I work for the NBA G League, and they love seeing her around. But I remember that internal struggle when I first had her. I remember we had Winter Showcase, and she was a few months old, and you know, I had to work for a few days all day long, and so I didn't want her away from me the whole time because one, I was breastfeeding, and I was pumping, but you know, so she had to be close. And so I remember I had her strapped on me, and I'm walking through all the Winter Showcase games, and I'm like, this is kind of, to me, I felt embarrassed. I'm like, why am I embarrassed to carry my own child around? But I was like, you know, I need to be focused on work. I need to be professional. They need to know I'm here doing that, and that's my sole focus. But I'm like, but it's not, you know, she's only a few months old, and they all know that I just come off of leave. So it was like, they were super supportive, but internally I felt odd. And I don't know why that is, but it's probably just the narrative that women think, you know, you've got to either be a stay-at-home mom or you're working. Your child's at daycare. That's not my situation.
Right. I love to hear that too. For like someone who doesn't have a kid yet, I have that fear because I'm so career driven that when I'm like, oh my gosh, how do you balance having kids and your work life? So the fact that your G League has been so supportive and your G League family, I love that.
It's so annoying though, because I do feel you on that, where you're like, I'm embarrassed. I don't know. Do I look less than? Like, I can't do my job. I don't know where that comes from.
Yeah.
Like, it's honestly, every day I'm like, where was this instilled in me and at what age? And then I look at like my daughter and I'm like, okay, I don't want her to feel like that. But I think I wonder if guys feel this way. I don't know. They probably don't. They're probably like, don't care. But
Maybe they do. I mean, Reggie's had to do it also a little bit because we both work in the same field.
Yeah.
He'll take her and he'll have to scout Winter Showcase when I'm working Winter Showcase. So he'll have her, baby wearing. He's walking around. Everyone's like, they call us the first family of the G League. I'm like, oh my gosh, because we're never separated. But it is so hard, I think, just being a woman in sports in general, and just being a woman in the workforce in general, having children. It was hard when you didn't have a child.
Yeah.
And then it's just like,
levels.
There's levels to this.
Levels keeps going. What made you want to get into sports? Like, what was your passion to get into the sports industry?
Yeah, so I had always played sports growing up. It was my avenue of getting out of the house and not dealing with what was happening while I was growing up. And so I love them so much, but I had so many injuries. So by the time I graduated high school, I had an offer to run track, but I was like, I'm not sure I'm going to make it. Like, my knee hurts so bad. And so I decided not to run track. And I was like, okay, well, now sports are out of my life. What next? I had not even thought about life ahead, because I was like, basketball, volleyball, track, that's all I did every season, and so I was just like, okay. Since being a little girl, I always felt like there's some type of, people might say like a calling, but I always wanted to be a Disney Channel star. But growing up in Reno, Nevada, that was not happening. My mom had 5 kids. She had a lot to handle, so she wasn't taking me to auditions all the time. So I said, could I merge TV and sports? What could I do? Yeah. And then I took my first journalism class, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is what I was meant to do. Not be a professional athlete, not be a collegiate athlete. Like, this was my way.
That's so cool. It's funny. We always find on this show that people don't, for the most part, I don't feel like a lot of women are like, I'm going to be in sports and this is going to be my job. It's kind of like navigating, I call it the open door. Like, you're just walking down a hallway and you're like, I'm going to try this one. Yes, no, this one. Yes, no. And you just keep going till you find something that you can't live without, or you feel like your purpose is in. What's the best thing for you? Working in the G League, obviously you're working with like the up and coming stars. The next one's up. How has that been for you?
For me, I think it's like the perfect place for me. And my husband and I say that all the time, because even growing up, I was never the best athlete on the team. I was good, but I was not great. And so to be in the G League, it's like, the up and coming, like you said, not the greats. So it feels like the perfect role for me. It's relatable. It feels like I can tell their stories in a way that makes sense, because I felt what they might be feeling, not in the same ways, but in a way I can relate to it. And then to see them grow, like Kenny Lofton Jr., he was a G League Elite Camp star, and then now has been a G League star and two-way star, and now he's on a full contract. And from day one, I saw him play at Elite Camp. I was like, this dude is something. And my husband's a scout, and we were talking the other day, and he was like, I think I'm on the train now. I'm like, I've been telling you. Maybe I should do your job.
Yeah, you're like, welcome.
Right?
I've been saying this for a minute.
It's super cool to see the up and coming stars, because a lot of people don't pay attention, and the G League is getting more attention. So people are starting to be like, okay, let me look over here. But it's taken a while for people to say, you don't need to only focus on A1 stars all the time.
Yeah, it's probably so rewarding too for you. Why don't you take us through like your role with the G League and how you even got the job in the first place?
Yeah, it's so funny. So I started out as the first Reno Bighorn sideline reporter. The Reno Bighorns are no longer in the G League. They moved to Stockton, so they're Stockton Kings. And it was really cool because I created that position, and I worked with them and said, you guys, there's no sideline reporters. I want to be one, but I need experience. So how am I going to get it in Reno? And they were really willing to work with me. So the Kings organization has always been special to me. And that's kind of where I started with the G League. And then I went to the Pac-12 network and got out of it for a little bit. But then after my knee surgery and not working for several years, I needed a way back in. And at that point, I had been married to my husband. He was playing for Team Ignite during their inaugural season. And I said, I'm not working. I'm kind of following your dream right now. But see if there's a PR person I can talk to, so I can let them know I can write some press releases. I have these skills. I have a degree. Maybe I can do something. And he introduced me. And from that point on, they were like, yeah, we need someone to do like some TikToks. We want someone to be the face of the G. So that might work out. Fast forward 5 years later, that has changed where I'm not doing TikToks. That's not even my thing. I wish it was, to be honest.
It's so much work.
It's a lot of work.
It's so much work.
I'm watching my little sister and she's doing moves. I'm like, that ain't me. I don't have the hips. I don't know what happened. The 90s taught me something else. But and so it's now transitioned from doing TikToks and just doing little social media things to I'm helping make decisions when it comes to broadcast. I am leading broadcast. I'm sidelining. I'm hosting talks. It doesn't, like, there's so many avenues that I'm doing in the G League. So I'm really grateful because it's a job that I can do remotely. I can support my husband still in what he's doing. I can still be a mom. And then I can have something for me and have a voice to be creative because I didn't have that in other positions that I had. So hopefully I answered your question because
Absolutely.
It was a roundabout way to get to where I'm at now. But I'm
What
really
did you
happy.
do at Big 12?
Pac-12.
Pac-12.
Sorry,
Pac-12
Pac-12.
network.
Gosh, I'm so
come on.
bad.
Hey,
She doesn't maybe.
I'm a Coug, so I'm a part of the Pac-2 that is still remaining. So I'm a big fan.
They're dwindling. Like,
Yeah, it's
slowly.
almost
Literally.
I was
teams
a
left.
halftime host.
Okay.
So in San Francisco, I would go in studio and during all the halftimes or whatever live games there were, I would give you updates on everything that's happened across the conference.
Amazing. So how was that being in studio? Because now you're kind of like live. Whenever I see you, you're like live in game, sideline, in the truck. What's the difference for those people that don't know between being in studio and being like live studio-ish on a game set?
So, when I told you that I wanted to keep sports involved in my life somehow, I realized it was the thrill of live events.
Okay.
And that's why I like sidelining. So when I did the Pac-12 network and I was in studio, that element's gone. You don't hear the shouting. You don't smell the popcorn. You don't feel like fans freaking out.
Energy is
Energy is different. I love the energy, and being in studio is different, and it's for some people, but it's not my favorite thing to do. So in studio is cool because like there's a makeup team and you're part of like crafting certain stories, but I really like the live element of being on the sidelines, hearing the coaches, when they're upset, when they're happy, seeing tears flood when people win games. Like I'm a story person and I'm a people person. I love to tell people stories. And when you're in studio, sometimes it's like highlights, scores, whatever. In sidelines, you have a little bit more freedom to elongate the story and share some of the background.
Is that like nerve-wracking though? It has to be, because I feel like in studio you're like, okay, question, answer, question, answer, and live you're getting somebody's attitude, somebody's energy. They're happy, they're mad, they're sad. Like you just don't know what like hot mess you're walking into sometimes.
Yeah.
Is that like a thrill for you, or is that overwhelming for you?
I think it's a thrill. Early on, I think it'd be like, I have to do everything perfect.
Yeah.
And that anxiety was making me really stiff and just, I couldn't live in the moment well.
Yeah.
And now, in the last few years, I'm like, I'm going to go out, just be like, not to say wing it, but I'm just going to go out there, relax and see what happens and know that I know what I'm doing, know these people I'm talking to, and have fun. And that's been what's been really cool. Even, this last season, Ron Holland, I got to interview him at the end of a game, Ignite's like first win. And, people are coming over like pouring water bottles. And so like having to do that interview while people are pouring water bottles or tussling the player and stuff, that's always fun to navigate, I think.
It's always going to be overwhelming though, because you're like, I even here, we get it wrong all the time. Like, thank God for production, because we're like, oh, no, change it. Sorry. The live, I don't know if I could do.
You just have to have a short, memory.
nerves.
They say that for athletes, but same thing for reporters. Because I mess up all the time and I'm like, that was not the word I wanted to say, but I'm going to keep on moving. It's fine. And then, I'm watching national reporters all the time and I see them mess up too. And I'm like, because we're human. We're not supposed to be perfect. And yes, you want to do your job well and have that be, limited, but it happens and you move on.
Yeah.
Has there ever been a time that's been like a challenging experience, maybe during your work at the G League or just even getting into that, and kind of touch on that?
I think like getting into the G League the second time around, because I had been off work for 2 years, I wouldn't say it's unheard of, but it's not typical that you take time off and you can still come back to it, because there's so many young and up and coming, especially ladies, because women in sports is on a rise. And so trying to come in and compete, it's difficult. It's similar to young players in the NBA. The NBA wants all the young talent and they're going to develop you. And so if you're a little, older, midway through your I'm already forgetting. Mom brain. Your journey, midway through your journey. And they're like, we might have seen all you can do already. Yeah. So having to change the narrative of people's minds of who you are, even now, being a G League reporter has done great things for me. But people say, are you just that? And I have to say, I've done several sports before I ever did the G League. So it's just keeping people's minds open and letting them see other sides of you at all times. That can be challenging when people peg you one way.
Do you feel like that's a common theme for like women in sports right now? I think it's changing, it's evolving, but I do think for a while we got stuck in the, like, I call it the box, right? Of like, you can do this and that's it. And there's not a lot of opportunities to kind of expand and grow. Has there been somebody for you throughout your career that has really leaned in and either pushed you to be more, or secondly, given you the opportunity to become more or grow or thrive?
Yeah, I've been super fortunate. And I think the reason why my career is still going is because of these people. So I have one man, his name is Paul Mitchell. He was at my university.
Not the hair guy.
I know,
just to be
right?
clear.
That's what I went to right away.
No.
Awesome name.
I think
He's from the University of Nevada, and he in the journalism school, he has a lot of experience, like knowing people at the ESPN, all this stuff. So I remember this just came out actually in the university's like magazine. They did a little profile on me. But I had this meeting with him when I was a freshman, and I came in, and everyone's like, if you want to do sports, you need to know him. Came in, bubbly. I was like, this is what I want to do. And he was like, just brought me down. And I was like, oh, this is what life's like. And he essentially was just telling me, like, number one, you're a woman. You're an ethnic woman. You're going to have a hard time. And these are the reasons why. So you need to be ready. You need to know your stuff. You need to not lean on your looks because you probably have before, and all these things. And I was like, okay, so it's either a wake-up call or it's something that's going to push me away from doing it. And I'm so glad he had that candid conversation with me, because it really did reframe how I was thinking about going about my journey. And when I graduated, he told me, I was really hard on you, because he never like gave me like positive stuff sometimes, which is good, because that's actually the type of person that I need as a coach. But he was like, I knew you were always going to make it, and I saw something special, but I didn't want you to get ahead of yourself. So I wanted to kind of keep you here. So he's one of them. So, and then he told me to go to the National Association of Black Journalists convention, and that's NABJ. So I went there.
Where is that?
It changes every year, this convention. Every city, every year it's in a different city.
Okay.
And the purpose of that is for other Black journalists to come and get support from those who have already made it, to help you get that step up or just network. This business is so much about networking. Nice. If I didn't have people, it'd be really tough. You can get an agent and they know people, but knowing people yourself, that helps. So Mark Spears, you know him, and he actually befriended me when I was working with the Kings, a blog for the Kings at age 18. So I've known him for a long time. He was like the president of the sports task force at this convention. But he has been a champion for me through and through. And whenever I need advice, an introduction, Mark has really been on my side. And then Jay Harris for ESPN. When I was in college, I would send him my reels because I met him at the convention. I was like, hey, I need a mentor. He's like, if I'm going to mentor you, you're going to need to take very harsh advice. Can you do that? I said, yes. So I sent him my reels, and he was like, your voice is terrible.
Stop it.
He was like,
Stop
if
it.
you don't slow down, Gianna, and it would be very just, and I was like, okay, but that seems to be what I need, is like very direct. I don't want you to like sugarcoat it. And now a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I love your voice. And I'm like, yeah, that's largely because he learned. People in college, like my professors didn't really tell me, but he did. So that's why when you talk about people, you got to find real people that care about you, that want to see you succeed, and then put in the time. And you got to put in the time back. They're going to give you it.
So one of the things we've learned that's been really interesting for me in this world of sports, but also in journalism, is sometimes you're given a story to cover, and sometimes you're given the opportunity to create the story. Right?
Yeah.
Have you ever had to advocate for yourself for a story you believed in that production might not have?
Yeah. And this, I would say, so I worked in local news in Reno, and it's not a diverse town.
Okay.
So I was doing news, sports, and entertainment. It's a, small city. So
whole big
I did a lot.
Of fun.
And so for entertainment, there was one casino that would always have certain people come in, and I would cover it. And this time it happened to be 2 Chainz. So I said at our production meeting in the morning for everyone, hey guys, 2 Chainz coming in. I would like to do this, this, and this. And they said, why would you want to cover that? It seems like you just want to cover it because you want like a Black voice out there. And so at that point, I had to really advocate that there is a group of people in our city that care about these topics. And they were just pretty baffled that I would bring this this artist up, but they weren't baffled when I interviewed a country artist. So, you know, I had to advocate for, there are communities that care about different topics, and this is one of them. And that was my first real taste of like, not everyone's going to see things the way I see it or care about the things that maybe are important to me. So there's got to be voices of different people at every table.
Yeah.
And so I think that may be one. I mean, the G League, I don't have like any qualms with, because all they want is your ideas, and they're like, yeah, let's do this, let's do this. So that's why I'm like, oh, I love working here, because I'm not boxed in. They're not single-minded. And they really care about lots of people.
I think it's so important, though, that you had to go through that at the news station, right? Because it kind of gave you that experience, that confidence to be like, okay, I know I can go in and pitch an idea, I can sell it, I can write the story, right? And tell it. Because I think one of the things, especially from the agent side, we talk about a lot is the fear, right, of media. And you're telling a story of a story is what I say, right? Because you're taking something and then you're kind of sharing it to the masses. How do you find is best to get athletes or people you're interviewing to be comfortable in that setting? Because it's super intimidating. Like it is, especially when they're young. They're not used to it, and they're under that microscope. When they're older, they're like, we just don't care. It is what it is. But the younger ones, especially the ones you work with in the G League, how do you get them to kind of open up and showcase who they are as a person, not just a player?
It depends on the venue in which I'm interviewing them. So coming up is elite camp, we talked about. And at elite camp, I'm interviewing every prospect that's coming in for the G League, so that we have video of all of them. And so it's a whole day of interviewing every single player. And it's a very short time slot. And I have to ask them about their stories. And so it can be like bulletin, and be like, oh, robotic if you do it. But I try to, when they first come in, like, oh, I see those kicks you got on. Try to ease them, like relate something. Oh, you went to this blah, blah, blah. I know someone here. So I try to bring in a personal element before I ask them any questions about themselves, or I share something about myself before asking them more. So that way, maybe they're a little more at ease. So in that situation, I don't have a lot of time. But if it's a longer form piece, I can, or someone like anyone from Ignite last year when I was sidelining, I'm seeing them all the time. So like during shoot arounds, I go up to them, I say something, hey, like, great game, I noticed you were this, or just try to show them that I'm a person too. I care about your story. I want to help you share your story in the best way possible. So just try to really meet them at the same level. Because, you know, sometimes people just want to like throw things at them. I mean, my goal is always to share like the right story, the true story. So it's like, I'll only get that if they feel comfortable. And luckily enough, a lot of people have said like, you're very easy to talk to. And so I'm like, that's one of my gifts. And I think that's probably why I do this job, because I can do that.
That kind of ties into, you know, what I'm thinking too, is like, you're giving the advice, maybe to our younger audience that listens to the show, talking about like, oh, you're relating to the players and you're easing them into these interviews. What advice would you give to the younger woman who wants to be like the next you?
I mean, I would say first and foremost, find out what you really care about doing and make that part of your job, because every job gets boring after a while. If you interview LeBron James every single day, it's going to be your every single day thing. You're going to get used to it. You eat your favorite filet mignon every day, it gets boring. You want a new taste. So find something that you truly are passionate about, that you care about. Like I said, I'm truly passionate about telling people stories and letting people know who the person off the court is or off the field is. And then make that part of your mission as you're going about it every day. And then also know you're going to put in work. Like I see a lot of young people, because of social media, you can come up faster nowadays, but still recognize those are hard jobs. Hosting a podcast takes a lot more work than people think. So be prepared to put in a lot of work. Don't expect to be the it person immediately. You know, I've been doing this 10 plus years, and I'm just getting some of the jobs I had dreamt about and the experiences that I dreamt about. So it's like, you're going to be in it in the long haul. And then also the other thing is make sure you find the right people. Like I said, find mentors that have done it, and then figure out how you can find your ways around things quicker then, because they'll help you out.
I think that's so important. I always say is like, find somebody who's been where you want to go and lean into them. Because if they've been there, they know what it takes, and learn from them. Let them pour into you, because I'm a big of like, I mess up so much. So it's like, don't do that. Learn from me, get it better, you're going to be better than me. That's the goal, is the one behind me is going to be better than me, because you can share the wins and the losses. You touched on social media. How has social media impacted, this is a two-part question, impacted athletes and their ability to feel, not attacked, but have you seen it change throughout the last like 5-6 years of the amount of access that is requested, almost required, of athletes now in sports to be able to share their lives. Some of them keep it so private, and some of them are just open door behind the curtain. How have you seen that change the landscape of access for media?
I mean, I think it just allows so much scrutiny. And like I said, because I care about people, I'm like, the amount of voices that are let into athletes' brains, and although they allow it and they sign up for this in a sense, I mean, it's harsh. Anyone in the public eye, like it can be super harsh. And so you see people like Selena Gomez the other day I saw took off her public comments, and she said like, this is for me, because it's just too much for someone like her. And to be honest, my husband, he struggles with anxiety, and many athletes do. And it's because, his therapist has shared, you have a cup and it's just dripping in drops of anxiety throughout the day. And athletes run at an anxiety level that the average person does not. So constantly, it's like last second shots, or it's you got to win this game, or your contract's on the line, or whatever it is, you're waiting to be drafted. Like, they're just always running on anxiety, even if it's not present in how you feel. So one drop of something outside of your normal bucket can really overflow you. And so I think athletes have to be really careful of it, because the amount of attention that they're letting in, obviously they're required to go talk at press conferences after the game, but the amount that they're getting in every single day through social media. I mean, it's not even athletes, it's young people. Like I see with my sister, like, you got to be mindful of what you're allowing in your space.
It's so hard. We even talk, like, I can't watch the show. I can't, because I will pick myself apart. I don't have the mental strength. I will be forthcoming and say I am not strong enough to do it. But it's also hard because you want to be able to be in a space where you can share. And, so many, like Jen Gottlieb talks about this all the time, of like, one person is supposed to be influenced or impacted by you. So you not showing up as your authentic self isn't giving that one person what you were possibly put in their life to be. How do you find, as a mom, as a woman, how do you find that pressure that there's so many young girls looking up to you, and how you carry yourself, but also you give yourself grace?
Yeah, I mean, again, bringing it back to the conversation about your postpartum body. I often manage what we say about my daughter to my daughter, what I allow people to say to her, because I don't want her to have certain body image issues that I have. And at the same time, I'm constantly speaking negatively about my postpartum body. And my husband's like, will you stop? Like, you need to stop. Like, this is so terrible, Gianna. Like, you cannot say these things about yourself. And I'm like, no, I'm just being a realist. He's like, no, this is super negative. I'm like, I'm being realistic. This is just what it is. And so it's a really hard balance of like not nitpicking myself. This whole last season, I've looked at my pictures, or I watch my interviews back, because I have to create a reel so I can get more jobs. And I'm looking at myself like, ugh, this is not me. And, God's like, no, this is you. Yes, I could be healthier. That's lifestyle changes. And I'll get to that, hopefully. That's my goal. But right now, like, I have to fight for the things that I want my daughter to know about herself. And I'm like, it's a lot harder said than done. So, it's a struggle every day. I hate social media. I hate pictures of myself.
No, it's funny.
It's hard.
It
it's like so hard because, you are in a space where you're a public setting, right? You are a public figure. And it's funny because I look at all these like actors and actresses, and they hide their kids, their lives, everything. And then I feel like a lot in the athlete side, it's just wide open now. So it's kind of like polar opposite. I don't know which one's right, which one's wrong. I don't get it right, or I get it wrong most of the time. But like, it's an interesting concept that is now something we're struggling with, especially as women. What do we share? What do we not share? And then how much scrutiny can someone take to where it's enough? But then when do you raise your hand? Like, sometimes you just have to raise your own hand and be like, nope. Because there's that saying that says like the person you spend the most time with is yourself. So be kind to yourself. You're kind to everyone else. Why aren't you kind to yourself? And so I think as women, especially the microscope and just the aesthetics of life, right? You want to be perfect. No one's perfect. Everyone's like not getting it right. Like they're lying to you if they're getting it right. Lying. What do you want to see continue to grow and change and evolve in sports for women? It's like women's sports right now, women in sports is trending. It is growing. It is thriving. Caitlin Clark is one of the driving forces in that. But what do you want to see continue to change as you go through your career, and what are you contributing to it?
I think just having the voice about women in sports be coming from women.
I love that.
We are seeing it, and like
that.
Caitlin Clark is very direct. A lot of the WNBA players are very direct now when they speak, and they always have been, but because the lens is more on them right now, we're hearing more about it. And then even just the commentators and the broadcasters that are covering these sports are women, and they're talking about it. So now when you have a rise in the sport and you have women that are rising up at the same time talking about the sport, where I feel like you're getting the right perspective.
Yeah.
And not that men can't talk about women's sports. That's, you could say then, oh, why are women talking about male sports?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that, but I think we need to make sure that women's voices are included as this is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, because if it's just males talking about females, they're going to miss some things. Remember, I talked about the relatability of things.
Yeah.
You're going to miss a few things if you don't understand what it's like playing during your time of the month. Like there's some things you just don't know.
Yeah.
Or like even women having babies,
Yeah.
like we learned in one of our shows, like it wasn't until, what did she tell us? Like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
That like WNBA players didn't have maternity leave.
Yeah.
And I'm
crazy.
like, wait, what?
Shocked.
I was just fell out of the chair.
Yeah.
And she was like, no, it wasn't until like the new CBA that this happened.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because I personally feel like there are some men that do this so well. And like Paul Mitchell for you, like they know what you're going to be up against and they help you achieve what you want to because they're helping you grow. I think sometimes you're just thrown into the fire and you're like, boop, I'm going to come out the other side one way or the other. But those men that have the opportunity to really lean in and say, hey, include this voice, include this perspective. Because I think women are super intuitive. Like, literally they're organized. We're intuitive. Like we can do multiple things at once. It's so important. But I also think now, especially in the NBA, it used to be the dads were they were the head of the house and it was the boy reported that. Now there's a lot of moms that are leading the charge of their son and their career, and women in sports are changing. What is essential for somebody who wants to be in your career path? Like what classes should you have taken that you didn't take? What skills do you wish you had? Mine's like anger management and hostage negotiation like are so important because they're underserved right now in my role. But what would you say to someone who's like, I want to be you? What should they be taking, or what do you wish you would have taken?
That's a hard question. If I'm going to be really, really honest, when we talk about classes, I would say most of what I do now has come from my internships. Like not that college doesn't matter, but I would say like your first 5 years in the industry is like getting your master's, and that's where you really learn everything. You cannot know anything about news if you're not in a news station setting. You're not hearing, the calls that are coming in the radio, but police station, you're not hearing. Like there's so much that you don't learn in college. So I wouldn't even focus too much on the classes. Like, go get a journalism degree. You need to have a basis of understanding media ethics. A lot of that's gone. So that's really important. Like
that's your
that class, skip.
I'd say definitely still go to college, but lean into your internships. Really see what's going on. Learn every part of it, because I started out as a photog, so I can be a photog, I can be an audio operator, I can be a camera operator, I can be a producer, I can be talent, I can do all jobs at any given station, which makes me very flexible for the G League. There's a lot of layoffs that happened in the NBA space. I wasn't one of them because I can fill in many roles. So I would say try to know as much as you can.
Yeah.
I don't know. Does that answer your
No,
question?
that's so
great.
so
There's
great.
so much advice to give. I'm like, these are.
No, it's so
ones.
important though, because I think sometimes young people are like, I just want to be this.
Yeah.
And you have to be like that Swiss Army knife where you're like, you are more valuable to someone when you can step in, and it might be outside of your comfort zone and be like, I don't know how to do this, but I want to learn. You're creating a relationship with someone you're probably going to have to work with. And then secondarily, if you need to have somebody's back, support, or step in, you have that skill set. Because we talk all the time about, school is great. It's a great place for a lot of people. Some people don't go and they're thriving themselves. But the experience from the people side to the industry side is so important, because half of navigating anything in life is how you handle people. And not everyone is
people
like
management.
you. Exactly. Not everyone's like you. They don't need feedback like you. They don't want to talk like you. They don't understand you when you talk. You have to figure out how to be able to reach people that are different than you. And that's so important. And I think a lot of young people just are like, I want to be this, and until I get this, I'm going to hold out for the management position. Like, you know what I mean? You're like, girl, come on. Like, try,
Especially
get
as
in
women.
there. Yeah.
you need to be able to do more than one thing.
Yeah.
I agree.
Well,
Yeah.
Gianna, what is the most rewarding part of your job?
I think just getting to know the thousands of athletes that I've interviewed, like them sharing their stories off the court about things that they've gone through, you know, athletes that their parents have passed away earlier. I really like hearing people struggle, and I really like hearing people's hard times because that tells you why they are the person they are today.
You're sharing who they are as people, not the athlete. This is what makes them be more passionate. Or
maybe this athlete has outbursts on the courts because of something that happened in childhood. You would be much more understanding if you knew that about that person. Or, you know, maybe this coach had an off day. Well, maybe his wife was diagnosed with cancer today. People have real stories to tell that go beyond making this basket. I mean, these things are not going to last forever. Those shots won't last forever. But they'll remember the people that treated them well, told their stories correctly, and paid attention to the things that mattered.
Wow. Well, and I also think too, it's nice for them to feel like someone actually cares. Yeah. Because they're robotic, right? They are an asset, is what I call it, right? So there are people who don't care, and there are people that do care. And I think oftentimes the people that they lean into or they gear themselves towards are the people that remind them that it's okay to be human and laugh with them. Because I think so many times it's like, don't do this. You can do this, sit up straight, look at the camera, do this or that. And you're like, yo, we're just going to kick it for like a quick minute and I'm going to get it wrong. I'm going to mess up. It's that comfort level. So I think that's something that the industry is, especially for women, it gives us that space to have more of a conversation, less like an interrogation, right? Like sometimes it's like question, answer. And you're like, it's like a tennis match, like bing, bing, bing. And you're like, no, just like, let's just talk. And then you learn something that then you might be able to influence what happens in their life down the road. Cause you're like, wait, I know about that. Yeah. Let's tell this story. What's the one thing if you could change today? What's the one thing that you would change? Or is there a point in your career that you wish you had handled better or would do over?
I would have fired my agent sooner. I had an agent earlier in my career and it just didn't serve me. But I'm a super loyal person, and this person had seen me from the very beginning. And so I was like, you know, he saw me when no one else did. So I wanted to give him that time. But at the same time, recognizing when they don't serve you, it is your career and your time on the line. So I would have fired him sooner.
Put yourself first. I think that's such a big thing. 'Cause people, like, especially women, I don't know if it's like a thing, we like are always like, we give so many chances and like so many opportunities, and it's like, let me put myself first for once. And I think that's,
well, I think you're afraid to be like, are you bossy? Are you nasty? Are you, fussy, aggressive? Like you just get labeled so much. And I always say, like, when people are like, oh, you're aggressive or you're bossy, I'm like, no, I just have leadership skills. Like literally that's leadership skills. Like let's reframe how we look at it. But I think what you said about your daughter is so important, is how you talk to her, how she talks to herself. Like I even do it with mine, right? If it's just like, speak positivity into yourself. And one of my athletes the other day, he went to Nevada, so you'll appreciate it. He was like, that's not good enough, Kate. And I said, well, instead of saying that's not good enough, why don't we say we have work to do? It's the same concept. We're just framing it differently, and it doesn't come off as less than, it comes off as opportunity. And so I catch myself all the time with my staff saying like, let's find a better way to say the same thing that doesn't make us feel bad about ourselves and gives ourselves an opportunity. Because if someone told you that's not good enough, you would feel bad about yourself. Why are you saying that to yourself? But no one, and I think that's just like the mental health aspect of the world. And even for these athletes, I mean, you've seen some really struggle this past season. Some had crazy outbursts. Some had to step away from the game. And I think that's one thing that's cool about the league, is they have become more open to guys needing to take time away and really be mentally healthy, because mental health is now at the forefront of what allows people to produce at any level, whether that's on a studio set, in a game, at a corporate office. Like you have to be mentally okay. And I think we're all trying to find what that balance is for us.
Yeah, I think that's a large part of when I interview. I try to hit that and ask people about their mental health that are willing to share, just so that everyone else can see like, hey, we're all going through this. Okay, we're all dealing with it at some level of the spectrum. And like you mentioned, the leagues have been super supportive. And I'll say it quickly. I mentioned my husband. He struggled with anxiety. He had a panic attack right before playing for the South Bay Lakers, right before the game. He was supposed to be at the arena, and I had to help him figure out how we were going to get him there. I called the coach. I called the team. I was like, hey, He's not in a good way right now. And they were so supportive. They're like, do what you can. If you get here by game time, it is what it is. And if you don't, it is what it is. He got there. He had his best game of the season. But it was because of how supportive they were. They gave him the space to be like, yeah, you're late, but it's okay. We understand what you're going through right now. And it's because of people like that and their support and getting him help that he has been able to not have these things happen anymore. And it may come back, but
it's so cool that he raised his hand, though, because I feel like a lot of men don't want to raise their hand. And women
to.
are afraid to. Yeah, you're like, girl, if you're not, Reggie, if you're not, I'm about to be over here, 2 hands up. We're both in this.
Yes.
But I think for women, it's hard because we don't want to do that because then it's like, are we going to lose an opportunity?
Yeah.
Because someone's like, I don't know. You know what I mean? But I think now I'm like, I just don't care. Like, I'm going to raise my hand. And if you like it, you like it. And if you don't, you don't. And we'll move forward in some kind of capacity. So it's all in it. What do you want to see change in the next 5 years?
As far as
just for you personally, what is your 5 year?
5 years for me, I just want to see growth in for me covering the NBA at the NBA level often. I guess that would be what I want to do. I love the G League, but yes, my goal has always been to be an NBA team reporter. We've moved to Las Vegas. If Las Vegas gets an NBA team, I'm putting it out there right now, called Gianna Hearn.
Let's go.
Get into existence.
Yes, manifest it.
I would like to
now.
be their sideline reporter. So hopefully in 5 years, you'll see that.
Okay. Well, I'm confident that one's coming.
Yeah.
I feel it in my bones.
Same.
So she's going to hunker down and just be like, I'm here, ready. I'm going to build this little team here. So Gianna, I want to talk now. One of the things that drives you that I think is just really what keeps you foundationally sane most days.
Oh, yeah.
Is your faith. How important is that for you to be able to incorporate that not only into your job, but into your life? And how do you manage the expectations of both from sharing? Because some people like to share, some people don't. How do you handle that?
Yeah, for me, I feel compelled to share. Like, I can't even keep it in. And we've talked a lot about how my career has changed. And there is a stark difference between when I wasn't following God and then when I had faith a part of my life. And those 2 years that I was not working, I was working with God. We were wrestling. We were fighting. And that's when my faith really developed. And so much so that if you knew me before, my life looks completely different. How I talk looks completely different. The man I chose to marry looks completely different. And why? It is truly foundational to every aspect of me and to my family. My husband and I, we run the chaplaincy program for the G League. They didn't have one, so we created that.
What is that? For those of us that don't know, what is that?
It's just so that there's a chaplain on every G League team so that the players can go to them for faith or just because they're struggling. Like just having someone that will walk life with you that cares about you. So for me, it's just we care so much about it that when you ask what's going to happen 5 years, what do I see in my future, out later on, probably past 5 years, out of being a reporter and really being focused on encouraging others through faith, whether that's motivational speaking. I spend a lot of time studying the Bible with people. So for me, yeah, it's foundational and it's changing. And for me, that's why I care so much about people, because I think God cares so much about people. And I think he gets a bad rap sometimes. We make it too messy, too hard, all these things. The core of him is he loves people. And we want to help people any way we can, even if you don't follow him. So that's why when I interview people, I always ask them actually at the end off camera, I talk about it a little bit.
Wow.
So
I think that's so cool. I think that's also too what drives you to kind of keep going, right? Your path has been different doors, right? And it's not necessarily your plan, it's his plan. I always say God thinks he's funny sometimes because you're like, oh, that's what you want to do? Yeah, no, I'm going to put you over here and push you along.
Yeah.
And I think for you, just watching you grow and thrive and everything that you've accomplished in your career and have yet to do, I think it's just a true testament to, right, of you just trusting in his plan. It's not easy, girl. Sometimes I'm like, I hear you. I get it. Yes, thank you, sir. Okay.
Yep.
I'm not stupid anymore. I get it. Yes.
I sat for those 2 years and I was like, if you want me to stay in this career, you're going to have to make that happen, because I was done with it. I was so burnt out.
Yeah.
And he revived it. And without me pushing things, like more opportunities have come. I'm like, okay, this is where you want me right now. This is my husband and I's mission field, is the G League for now. But sports in general, I want to create a ministry for wives and girlfriends of athletes, because I understand what it's like to date an athlete prior to following him, and also one that doesn't follow him. Now married to my husband, So we've seen all different sides, and I really care about those women because it's challenging. A lot of people are like, oh, I want to be a wife of a player, whatever. I don't know what they say, to be honest. and that's not wrong.
Yeah.
But there are unique challenges that come with that. The amount of travel your significant other will do. Obviously, there's a lot of women around them. So I want to be there for women going through those struggles.
Yeah. We need to connect you with Krista Chen, who started, I don't know, you probably know her.
Not
from
deep,
the
no.
MBPA. She's fantastic. You would love her.
All right, hook
but
it up.
she started Women Behind the Bench. Is that right? Behind the Benches, the
Okay.
Women Behind the
Ooh, I
Benches.
love that.
And it's all about, the MBPA started it, and it's all about for wives
I
of
gotta ask
players
her.
kind of
Yeah,
got
okay.
together. Yeah, I know. It's really cool. But you're seeing other people be in that position and see there's a need for it and pour into it. And I think that's what's so fantastic of what you're doing.
Yeah,
so
thank
I'm
you.
so proud of you.
Thanks.
I'm so proud of you. Okay, when she's on the sideline of the team for Vegas people,
We'll be there.
We'll be there. We'll be sitting there with
Hey,
our
I'll
Team
have you
Gianna
guys.
shirts on. Like we saw it first. We saw it first. Well, thank you so much for coming on our show today.
Thanks. Love you guys.
Oh, you're so fantastic. Okay, that right there, Gianna, I've known her for a minute, but really seeing her kind of shine and just share her story is so important to me. She started in one place. She started in sports, playing, and then her path took her all the way to the other side. I think that's why she's so good at what she does, and she has such an innate ability to share stories because she was an athlete, and so she knows how much you're under a microscope. And she's even seen that with her husband Reggie from playing in the league, how much sacrifice that goes into being not only an athlete but a person in the public eye. I had no idea that all of that went into it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And coming from a production, background, me being a producer at NFL, it was really cool hearing Gianna's side where she started out, being a producer, working audio, working directing, being a camera operator or whatever, and then now transitioning to being talent.
Yeah.
And I think that's such good advice for the young women that watch our show, or even, just our audience in general, because it's so important to be able to have so many different skills to make you stand out from the next person. So I think that's huge. And I love that she was able to share that story with us.
Well, I think it's cool too, because you don't realize often what other people's jobs are and how hard that is.
Right.
And so when you're able to learn and understand what each person does that takes to make a show go on is so cool. But I loved her sharing. I can appreciate, when she shared about the mom side of things, where it's like, I'm a mom and I'm trying to figure it out. And I love that they have their daughter everywhere with them. I think it's so sweet, and the memories they're creating is so cool. But like, shout out to her husband for like putting the Bjorn on. He's scouting for the Spurs. Full on dad mode, full on work mode. I love it. I want to see more of it. But she's had so many amazing people, it seems like, pour into her life and really give her the opportunity to thrive.
Yeah.
And I think we all can take that message away from her and seeing what wonders it's done for her, right? Of pour into other people. Let them thrive. Give them something to be proud of. So whether that's Reggie, whether that's Paul Mitchell, whether that's her team over at the G League, really giving her a safe space to become the best version of herself is exactly what we saw.
Yeah. I think something you can tell that she is such a people person. She's so easy to talk to, and she obviously uses that to her advantage. And I love how she speaks to athletes and makes them almost like humanizes them in a way, because athletes just seem like they're like these big time people, and she wants to know their story, like why they are the way they are, and if they've had a tough upbringing. And I think that's such a special quality to have and to relate to people, and then be able to share that story to the viewers and the audience. I love that.
I think one of the other things that's so fantastic about her is just how much she has grown in her own faith and how much she wants to share. And she even mentioned it's something that she doesn't feel obligated to do. She feels responsible to do. She feels called to do. And I think it's just so cool to watch someone be just the best version of themselves. She has a podcast. Make sure you guys check that out. The Icon podcast. Make sure you guys check that out. Let her share some stuff with you guys, but also just go experience Gianna Hearn, because she is a whole vibe in herself. Herself.
I love that. And the fact that she has her own podcast, especially like sharing faith, that's just, it's a special thing, and it's hard to do. It's just hard to share your experiences. And I love that she feels called to do that. So we loved having Gianna on the show. You guys make sure to comment, like, subscribe, and let us know who you'd like to see on the show next. That's it for us on set in California at Her Table. We'll see you guys next time.